Open Heaven, the 19th of October 2020, Monday. Topic: Overcoming destiny-threatening enemies. Memorize Psalms 6:10. Let all mine enemies be ashamed and sore vexed, let them return and be ashamed suddenly. Bible reading, 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 45 to 51. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose, and came, and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened, and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran, and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Message. Ever since Adam sold the liberty of man to the devil, everyone else who desired freedom has had to fight for it. Success in this fight, however, is only guaranteed through prayer, engaging God to do what we cannot do on our own. It is the only way of dealing with destiny-threatening enemies, whatever and whoever they are. After Hezekiah received a letter from Sennacherib, he asked God for help and he obliged accordingly. Isaiah chapter 37 verses 14 to 20. Lane. Today's Bible reading, after Goliath had cursed David, 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 43, the young man intelligently invited God, the greatest ally, to the battle between him and Goliath, and by extension, between Israel and the Philistines. Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 45. After the invitation, David became more than a match for Goliath. The devil was indeed the primary figure behind the attack against David. He didn't want him to become the king of Israel. We can learn from David. He was a successful warrior who relied on divine intervention in all his life's battles. In numerous psalms, he promptly reported his real and potential enemies to God. Most famous is Psalm chapter 35 verse 1, where he wrote, Plead my cause, O Lord, with them that strive with me, fight against them that fight against me. He knew he could not handle these enemies by himself. He was specific about what he wanted the Lord of hosts to do with his enemies. Psalms 6:10. Beloved, are you faced with battles from destiny-threatening enemies? Hand the battles over to God, the Jehovah Nissi, today. He will fight for you if you surrender all to him. Isaiah chapter 59 verse 19. Prayer point, Jehovah Nissi, please fight my battles for me today in the mighty name of Jesus.